Okay, so we've got a whole stack of research here on eating healthy for healthy babies.
Yeah.
Journal articles, clinical guidelines, even some public health reports. It's a real mix.
Yeah, a real mixed bag.
It seems like we're going deep on this connection between how a mother eats and how healthy she and her baby are in the long run.
It's fascinating. We're not just talking about 9 months of pregnancy.
Right.
This is way bigger. We're starting with health even before pregnancy.
Oh, wow.
Which, and this is surprising, can really impact fertility and even set the stage for the health of future generations.
Okay, see, I'm already intrigued, and I think a lot of times we jump right into pregnancy nutrition.
Right.
And forget about that foundation, that pre-pregnancy part.
Yeah.
Speaking of foundations, one of the articles mentions folic acid. And I got to admit, I'm not totally clear on why it's so important.
Well, folic acid is super important.
Okay.
It plays a vital role in the development of the neural tube,
Okay.
which eventually becomes the baby's brain and spinal cord. Without enough folic acid, the neural tube might not close properly, and that can lead to some serious birth defects like anencephaly and spina bifida.
Okay, wow. So the stakes are pretty clear then.
Definitely.
The research recommends 600 micrograms daily, right?
It's right.
But it also mentions that the synthetic folic acid, the kind you get in supplements,
Yeah.
is better absorbed than the natural folate found in food.
Exactly.
Why is that?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It comes down to the chemical structure. So synthetic folic acid
Okay.
is a single, simpler form, easy for our bodies to absorb.
Okay.
Natural folate, on the other hand, it comes in all these different forms that need to be broken down first before they can be absorbed,
Okay.
which makes the whole process less efficient.
So even though we get folate from food, like leafy greens and beans, supplements can provide that extra assurance, especially during pregnancy when you need more.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about weight gain during pregnancy. The guidelines are pretty specific. I feel like there's a lot of pressure to gain the right amount.
Yeah, you're right. There are recommendations.
Yeah.
And they're tailored to a woman's pre-pregnancy BMI,
BMI.
body mass index. It's a measure of body fat based on your height and weight.
Gotcha.
So, for example, someone with a healthy BMI
Okay.
should gain between 25 and 35 pounds.
Oh.
But someone who is overweight should gain less,
Makes sense.
like 15 to 25 pounds.
Definitely not one size fits all.
No, not at all.
It's not just about the total weight, is it?
No,
The research also talks about how you gain the weight throughout the pregnancy.
the pattern.
The pattern, right?
Exactly.
A slow and steady increase is ideal.
Ideally, yeah.
There's even some debate about how many calories obese pregnant women need.
Oh, interesting.
Some research suggests that they might not need to increase their calories at all,
Wow.
that they can rely on stored energy.
Huh. That's surprising.
Right.
I would have thought they needed more.
Yeah, me too.
But it sounds like what you eat is most important no matter what.
Quality over quantity.
Right.
What do these sources say about healthy eating patterns during pregnancy?
Well, the My Plate model comes up a lot.
Oh, yeah, the one with the sections for different food groups.
Yes, exactly.
Fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, dairy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
It's a good framework that can be adapted to different calorie levels.
flexible.
Yeah, and interestingly, studies show that pregnant women already tend to eat better than the general population.
It's good to hear.
It is.
So they're already on the right track.
Yeah, they are.
But is there still room for improvement?
Always.
Okay.
Even among pregnant women, we see them falling short on veggies, fruits, dairy, and whole grains,
Okay.
while exceeding the recommended limits for added sugars, saturated fat, and sodium.
So it's a reminder that we could all benefit from those dietary tweaks.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so focusing on nutrient-rich foods is key.
Definitely.
But are there any specific nutrients that pregnant women need to pay extra attention to?
Absolutely.
Okay.
While the requirements for most nutrients do increase during pregnancy, iron, iodine, and calcium with vitamin D deserve special attention.
Okay, let's start with iron.
Uh,
I know that one's a big deal during pregnancy.
It is.
Why is it so important, and how much do women need?
Well, iron's crucial for making red blood cells,
Okay.
which carry oxygen throughout the body. And during pregnancy, the mother's blood volume increases a lot
Okay.
to support the baby's growth.
Right.
So iron needs go way up.
So the iron pills, they're not just a precaution.
Right.
They're trying to keep up with the demand.
Exactly.
What about iodine?
Okay, so iodine.
I know it's in salt,
Yes.
but why is it so critical during pregnancy?
It's essential for thyroid hormone production,
Okay.
and that's crucial for fetal brain development.
Got it.
That's why it's so important to make sure you're getting enough iodine,
Okay.
especially during that first trimester when the baby's brain is developing so rapidly.
And iodized salt and prenatal vitamins are good sources.
They are.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And lastly, calcium and vitamin D.
Yes.
Important for strong bones, right?
Right.
But what's their specific role during pregnancy?
So you're right. Calcium is essential for building the baby's bones and teeth. And vitamin D helps your body absorb that calcium.
Okay.
Now, even though many foods contain calcium and vitamin D, supplementation may be necessary during pregnancy, depending on what you're eating and how much sun exposure you get.
So it's like a multi-pronged approach.
Yes.
Get those nutrients from food, consider supplements when needed, and always check in with your doctor for personalized advice.
Exactly.
Okay, this is fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what do these sources have to say about lifestyle choices and dietary concerns during pregnancy?
Okay.
Seems like there's a lot of conflicting information floating around out there.
There is.
Yeah.
Let's unpack some of that.
Okay.
Starting with the big one, alcohol. The research is very clear.
Oh.
There's no safe level of alcohol during pregnancy.
Wow.
It's best to avoid it completely.
Okay.
To minimize the risk of fetal alcohol spectrum disorders.
And those disorders can cause a lot of problems.
Physical, mental, and behavioral.
Wow, that's a strong message.
It is.
Now, what about caffeine?
All right, caffeine.
Can pregnant women still enjoy their morning coffee?
Moderation is key.
Okay.
The recommendation is to limit caffeine to less than 300 milligrams per day.
How much coffee is that?
That's about 2 to 3 cups.
Okay.
But remember, caffeine's also in tea, chocolate, and some sodas.
Oh, right.
So it's important to pay attention to all the sources.
Good point.
Yeah.
Speaking of things we consume, what about non-nutritive sweeteners?
Okay.
The ones in diet sodas and sugar-free products.
Right.
Are they safe during pregnancy?
So good news. The FDA has approved several non-nutritive sweeteners as safe.
Okay.
Including aspartame, sucralose, and stevia.
Okay.
But like most things, moderation is advised. It's always good to talk to your doctor about your specific concerns.
So reading labels and making informed choices are key.
Yeah.
Now let's tackle seafood.
All right, seafood.
I know it's a great source of omega-3 fatty acids, which are good for brain development.
Yeah.
But then there's the worry about mercury.
Right, the mercury contamination.
How do these sources recommend navigating that?
It's a balancing act.
Okay.
You want to choose seafood low in mercury,
Okay.
but still get those benefits of the omega-3s.
Okay, so what are some good options?
Salmon, sardines, light tuna,
Got it.
and limit or avoid the high mercury fish like swordfish, king mackerel, tilefish, and shark.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, there are charts online and through different health organizations
Helpful.
that break down the mercury content of all types of seafood.
So once again, informed choices are super important.
Yes.
And while we're talking about potential risks, what about foodborne illness?
Okay.
Are pregnant women more susceptible?
Yes, they are.
Why is that?
Well, pregnancy hormones can suppress the immune system,
Oh, okay.
making pregnant women more vulnerable to pathogens like Listeria and Toxoplasma gondii.
And those can be harmful to the developing fetus.
Especially harmful.
So extra caution is needed.
Definitely.
What are some practical tips from these sources for avoiding foodborne illness during pregnancy?
Several things you can do.
Okay.
Always wash fruits and vegetables thoroughly.
Even if they look tree-washed?
Even then.
Okay.
Cook meat and poultry to the proper internal temperature.
Using a food thermometer?
Yes. Always use a thermometer.
Okay.
And avoid unpasteurized dairy products, raw or undercooked eggs, and raw sprouts.
Got it. Those can harbor bacteria.
They can.
These are good reminders for everybody, really.
They are, yeah.
We've covered so much ground, from pre-pregnancy health to specific nutrients to food safety and concerns about what's safe to eat during pregnancy.
It's a lot.
Before we move on, is there anything else these sources emphasize when it comes to maintaining a healthy pregnancy?
You know, one thing that really stands out is physical activity.
Oh yeah, exercise.
Exactly. Aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity every week.
Like brisk walking or swimming?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Of course, talk to your healthcare provider about your exercise routine.
Right. Especially if you have any health conditions.
Exactly.
Exercise has so many benefits.
It does, physical and mental.
And it plays a vital role in a healthy pregnancy.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm also curious about how to manage those common pregnancy complaints.
Yeah.
Things like nausea, constipation, and heartburn.
Right.
Do these sources offer any insights on that?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's dive into that next.
All right.
We'll explore recommendations for dealing with those issues and maybe bust some myths along the way.
Sounds good.
I'm all ears.
Okay, so let's dig into these common pregnancy woes.
Okay.
Those everyday discomforts.
Yeah.
That might not be serious,
Right.
but can really affect a woman's quality of life during pregnancy.
Exactly, like nausea, constipation, heartburn.
Yeah.
Those might seem minor
Right.
compared to the bigger health conditions we talked about earlier,
Uh-huh.
but they can be super annoying.
Oh, they can be really bothersome.
What kind of advice do these sources offer for dealing with them?
Well, let's start with nausea,
Okay.
often called morning sickness,
Yeah.
even though it can happen anytime.
Right.
It's most common in the first trimester.
Right.
One suggestion is to eat small, frequent meals throughout the day
Okay.
instead of 3 big ones.
Got it.
And choosing easily digested carbs can help too,
Like what?
like dry crackers, toast, or even hard candy.
Oh, okay.
That can help settle the stomach.
I've heard ginger can be helpful for nausea.
It can.
Is that true?
Yeah, ginger's been used for nausea for a long time.
Okay.
And there's some science to back it up.
Okay.
It's generally considered safe during pregnancy.
Good.
But as always, check with your doctor
Right.
before adding any new supplements or herbal remedies.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Now, what about constipation?
Okay, so
I imagine those pregnancy hormones and the growing baby don't help with digestion.
no, they don't.
Yeah.
Hormonal changes can really slow down digestion.
Okay.
And then the pressure from the expanding uterus
Yeah.
can contribute to constipation too.
Makes sense.
So these sources emphasize increasing fiber intake.
Okay. Through.
Foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains.
Got it.
Staying hydrated is super important.
Right.
And getting regular exercise.
Gentle exercise.
Even gentle, like walking, can help keep things moving.
Okay, so it's all about supporting those natural processes.
Exactly.
What about heartburn?
All right. Heartburn, also known as acid reflux,
Yeah.
is often caused by the growing uterus pushing up on the stomach, which can force stomach acid back up into the esophagus.
Okay, so what helps?
Eating smaller, more frequent meals.
Okay.
Avoiding trigger foods.
Like?
Spicy or fatty foods.
Okay.
And staying upright after meals. Don't lie down right away.
Oh, good tip.
Yeah.
So far, we've been focusing on healthy pregnancies.
Right.
But what about when things get a bit more complicated?
Yeah.
When certain health conditions come up.
Right. There are a number of health conditions that can come up during pregnancy or exist before and need special attention.
Okay.
One area these sources point to is excessive weight gain.
And that's not just about how you look.
Right. No.
It could affect both the mother and baby's health.
Absolutely. Excessive weight gain can increase the risk of complications during delivery.
Like what?
Preeclampsia, gestational diabetes, needing a C-section.
Oh, wow.
And it can impact the baby's health, too.
Okay, how so?
Increased risk of being born large for gestational age,
Okay.
having low blood sugar after birth, even developing obesity later in life.
Wow, so the effects can really last.
They can.
And for the mother.
It raises her risk for type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease.
So it's important to look at the long-term consequences. How do these sources suggest managing weight gain?
Early and consistent monitoring is key.
Okay.
Healthcare providers should talk about weight gain targets
Okay.
and healthy eating with their patients throughout the pregnancy.
Okay, good advice.
And they can also provide guidance on physical activity.
Taking individual needs into account.
Right, and any underlying health conditions.
So it's all about having those conversations with your doctor.
Yeah.
And coming up with a personalized plan.
Exactly.
Now, I'm curious about pica.
Okay, pica.
I've heard of it,
Huh.
but I'm not quite sure what it is.
Pica is the craving and consumption of non-food items.
Non-food items?
Yeah, like dirt, clay, or ice.
Huh. That's interesting.
It's a bit of a mystery.
Okay.
We don't really know the exact causes.
What are some possible causes?
Sometimes it's linked to nutrient deficiencies, like iron deficiency.
Okay.
But it could also be cultural practices or psychological factors.
That's fascinating, but also a little concerning. What should pregnant women do if they experience these unusual cravings?
Talk to their healthcare provider.
Okay.
They can check for any underlying deficiencies
Right.
and offer advice on how to manage pica safely.
Okay, so open communication with your doctor is key here,
Yes.
as it seems to be with most things during pregnancy.
Yeah, definitely.
Now let's talk about gestational diabetes.
All right. Gestational diabetes.
I know a lot of pregnant women are worried about that.
They are.
What do these sources say about it?
Well, gestational diabetes is a type of diabetes that develops during pregnancy.
Okay.
It happens when your body can't produce enough insulin,
Insulin.
the hormone that regulates blood sugar.
Right.
So this can lead to high blood sugar.
Which can be risky for both mom and baby.
Exactly.
What are some of the risks?
For the mother, it increases the risk of preeclampsia, having a C-section, and developing type 2 diabetes later on.
Okay, and for the baby?
Could be born large for gestational age, have low blood sugar after birth, and increased risk of obesity and type 2 diabetes later in life.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is.
How is gestational diabetes managed?
Usually by monitoring blood sugar levels and making changes to diet and lifestyle.
To regulate those levels.
Right.
And sometimes medication.
Sometimes, yes.
So working closely with your healthcare provider is super important.
Definitely.
To come up with a personalized plan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about women who already have diabetes before pregnancy?
Okay, so pre-existing diabetes adds another layer of complexity.
Okay.
These women are at higher risk for a bunch of complications.
Like what?
Preeclampsia, preterm birth, birth defects, stillbirth.
Wow, that's serious.
It is.
What needs to be done?
It's crucial to get blood sugar under control before conceiving.
Okay.
And keep it under control during pregnancy.
How do I do that?
Careful monitoring, medication adjustments, and close collaboration with a healthcare team.
So pre-pregnancy counseling and planning are really important here.
Extremely important.
What about hypertensive disorders of pregnancy?
Okay, so hypertensive disorders, basically high blood pressure during pregnancy, are a serious concern.
In what way?
They can range from chronic hypertension, which exists before pregnancy,
Got it,
to gestational hypertension, which develops during pregnancy, to preeclampsia, a more severe form.
Right, which can be life-threatening.
For both mother and baby.
And what are the main risks?
High blood pressure can restrict blood flow to the placenta, which can affect the baby's growth. Lead to low birth weight and preterm birth.
And for the mother.
It increases her risk for stroke, seizures, and organ damage.
Wow, so early detection and management are vital.
Absolutely.
How are these disorders typically managed?
It depends on how severe it is. Could involve medication to lower blood pressure. Close monitoring lifestyle changes.
And in severe cases?
Early delivery might be necessary.
So it's another area where being proactive is so important. Now, there's one more condition these sources highlight. Maternal phenylketonuria. Can you explain what that is?
Maternal phenylketonuria, or PKU, is a rare genetic condition. It affects how your body processes an amino acid called phenylalanine.
Phenylalanine?
People with PKU need to follow a strict low phenylalanine diet their whole lives.
To prevent
a buildup of this amino acid in the blood.
Which can cause
intellectual disabilities and other problems.
And I imagine it's especially important to manage during pregnancy.
Very important. High levels of phenylalanine in the mother's blood can cross the placenta and harm the baby.
Leading to?
Birth defects, intellectual disabilities, other problems.
So what do women with PKU need to do?
Work closely with their healthcare team to manage their diet very carefully.
Both before and during pregnancy?
Exactly.
And that usually involves?
A strict low phenylalanine diet. And consuming special medical foods. Essential nutrients without phenylalanine.
It sounds like a lot to manage.
It is.
But it's crucial for protecting the baby.
Absolutely.
We've covered a lot about managing health conditions during pregnancy.
You have.
But what about after the baby is born? What do these sources say about nutrition for breastfeeding moms?
Great question. Let's shift gears to postpartum nutrition, specifically for breastfeeding mothers.
Perfect. Okay, so we've gone through a ton of research on healthy eating for healthy babies. We've covered pre-pregnancy nutrition, managing those tricky health conditions during pregnancy.
It's a lot.
Now I'm really curious about what breastfeeding mothers need nutrition-wise. I mean, producing breast milk takes so much energy.
It does.
What do these sources say about supporting that through diet?
Well, you're right. Lactation is demanding, both physically and nutritionally. These sources stress the importance of bumping up calorie intake for breastfeeding moms.
How much are we talking?
Generally, adding about 330 to 400 calories per day to your pre-pregnancy diet.
So it really is like fueling another human.
It is.
But it's not just about calories, right?
No, not just calories.
What about specific nutrients, things that are important during breastfeeding?
You're on the right track. It's not just the overall energy you take in. It's also about getting enough of certain nutrients to support both the mother's health and to make sure the breast milk is packed with nutrients.
So those good eating habits we talked about earlier, They don't just disappear after the baby's born.
Exactly.
But are there certain nutrients that breastfeeding moms really need to focus on?
Absolutely.
Okay, which ones?
Well, one of the big ones these sources mention is iodine.
Iodine, okay.
It's crucial for the baby's brain development.
Right.
And breast milk is where they get most of their iodine.
Okay.
So getting enough iodine is super important.
Okay, and how do they do that?
Iodized salt, dairy products, maybe even continuing that prenatal vitamin.
Got it.
That can all be really beneficial.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
How the mother's nutrition directly impacts the baby's development.
It really is.
Now, what about fluids?
Fluids, so important.
Yeah.
You got to stay hydrated for milk production.
I can imagine.
A good rule of thumb
Yeah.
is to drink a glass of water every time you breastfeed.
Okay.
And with meals,
That's a lot of water.
it might seem like a lot,
Yeah.
but it makes sense.
Right.
You're using fluids to make all that milk,
Okay.
and you don't want to get dehydrated.
It's always best to listen to your body, right?
Absolutely.
Drink when you're thirsty.
Exactly.
Now, a lot of breastfeeding moms wonder about what they can and can't eat,
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
especially things like caffeine and alcohol.
Those are big ones.
What do these sources say?
Okay, so with caffeine, moderation is still key.
Okay.
Small amounts are generally considered safe,
Okay.
but try to limit yourself to no more than 200 to 300 milligrams per day.
And alcohol.
While the occasional small amount might not be a big risk,
Okay.
it's generally best to avoid it as much as possible.
Why is that?
Alcohol gets into breast milk,
Oh, right.
and that can affect the baby's sleep and development.
Better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly.
It's interesting how these recommendations are similar to the pregnancy ones.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You're still nourishing a tiny human.
That's right.
Just in a different way.
Exactly.
Now, switching gears a bit.
Okay.
What about losing the baby weight after giving birth?
A lot of women want to know about that.
Of course.
These sources stress the importance of taking it slow.
Cookie.
A healthy approach to weight loss.
No crash diets.
No crash diets, definitely not.
Especially for breastfeeding moms.
Yeah, that can mess with milk production.
And zap your energy.
Exactly.
So it's about finding that balance.
Yeah.
Nourishing yourself and gradually getting back to a healthy weight.
Right.
How do they recommend doing that?
Well, they suggest a combination of things. A balanced diet, regular exercise,
Right.
keeping track of your weight, and getting support from your healthcare providers.
It's a team effort.
It is.
It's also important to be patient.
Yes,
It took 9 months to gain the weight.
it did.
It'll take time to lose it healthily.
It will.
We've learned so much in this deep dive,
We have.
from pre-pregnancy nutrition all the way to postpartum.
It's a whole journey.
Is there any big takeaway message from all these sources?
I think one of the most striking things is this idea of a continuum of care.
Continuum of care.
Yeah, these sources highlight that nutrition isn't just about certain stages,
Okay.
like pregnancy or breastfeeding.
It's bigger than that.
It's a lifelong thing
Right.
that impacts both our health and the health of future generations.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is.
So the choices we make today, they have ripple effects,
They do.
not just for us, but for our children and beyond.
Exactly.
It really makes you think about making informed choices
Yeah.
about our nutrition,
Yeah.
not just during pregnancy or breastfeeding,
Yeah.
but throughout our entire lives.
Absolutely.
We're empowering ourselves with knowledge
Yeah.
and making choices that support a healthy future.
For ourselves and our families.
This deep dive has been so insightful.
It has.
I feel like I can navigate this whole world of nutrition for healthy babies and moms.
Good.
Thanks for joining me on this journey.
It was my pleasure.
To all our listeners out there, keep learning, stay curious, and make choices that nourish you and your family. Until next time.